welcome to Beryl International School. My name is Mr. Pama. I hope you're staying safe at home, and I hope you're also following all the instructions given to you by all health officials on how to keep yourself healthy and strong. I'll be introducing you today to online lessons, and we have biology here for you. This biology is for ss1 students. Biology ss1 students, and our topic for today would be functioning ecosystem. I'm going to repeat that. Functioning ecosystem. And during the course of this lesson, we are going to define autotrophy and heterotrophy. We are also going to look at, or we're going to distinguish between consumers, producers, and decomposers. We are also going to recognize the food relationship that exists among living things. Now we're talking about food web or food chain. We are also going to state the differences between autotroph, autotroph, and autotrophy, heterotroph, and heterotrophy. So, the topic once again, functioning ecosystem. Before we begin the definition of autotrophy and heterotrophy, let's first look at what a functioning ecosystem is. You know, one would wonder, what is an ecosystem? Let's forget about functioning, because we do know that anything that is functioning or functional is one, or is a thing that is quite effective. If anything is functional, it means the thing is very effective. So if we say functioning ecosystem, we are talking about an effective ecosystem. So now, what is an ecosystem? One would wonder, what really is an ecosystem? What is it all about? So I will tell you now, ecosystem has to do with organisms, a group of organisms, or one could also say a system of organisms that live in a biological environment. A group of organisms which live in a biological environment and take the physical environment to be their habitat. Now, during the course of this lesson, I'm going to give you definitions that you're going to put down, you're going to write down. But that is a function. So if you're talking about functioning ecosystem, it means a biological environment that is consisting of organisms. When we're talking about organisms, remember we're talking about plants and animals. So a biological environment that consists of plants and animals which live in a particular or a certain physical environment or habitat. So functioning ecosystem means those group or those class of organisms which effectively can survive or exist in a physical environment. So let's take our first objective over here. Definition of autotrophy and heterotrophy. Autotrophy and heterotrophy. Autotrophy over here refers to the class of organisms, let's say plants, which can manufacture their own food. This is done, of course, through a process we call photosynthesis. While heterotrophy refers to organisms which cannot manufacture their own food. Let's go down to the second objective, which is to distinguish between consumers, producers, and decomposers. Now, the consumer, in other words, can also be referred to as the autotrophs. So let's take producers first. Producers they can also be called autotrophs because they can manufacture their own food and give it out for other organisms to feed on. And consumers here are the heterotrophic or heterotrophic organisms because they depend on producers, which is the autotroph, for feeding. They depend on the autotrophs or the producers for feeding. And the decomposers here are they feed on dead organisms. So before we go further, let's look at this one. Let's take a recap of what we've done before. The ecosystem. We said ecosystem is a biological community of interacting organisms and their physical environment. The ecosystem is also a plant and animal, or the plants and animals that live in a particular area together with a complex relationship that exists between them and their environment. Likewise, an ecosystem is also a system or a group of interconnected elements formed by the interaction of a community of organisms with their environment. So everything about the ecosystem has to do with a group of organisms, be it plants or animals, that interact together or that correlate, that come together and live in a physical environment together. Okay, so now let's move over to the autotrophs. Autotrophy. That's the first one we'll be considering. Autotrophy. Autotrophy is the process whereby certain organisms, example, green plants, use sunlight or chemicals to manufacture their food from organic substances through a process called photosynthesis. So autotrophy is a process. In due course, we're going to look at the differences between autotrophy and autotrophs. Autotrophy is the process, while autotroph is referring to the organisms. Autotrophy is a process whereby certain organisms, like green plants, use sunlight to manufacture their own food, and that process is called photosynthesis. And heterotrophy is the process or situation where certain organisms, such as animals, cannot manufacture their own food, but depend on other organisms, that is the autotroph or the autotrophic, directly or indirectly for their feeding or for the derivation of their nutrients. So we're going to look at producers, consumers, and decomposers right here. So producers are also referred to as autotrophs because they provide food for the other organisms in the habitats. Terrestrial, for example, are autotrophs. It has to do with grasses, trees, and shrubs, while aquatic autotrophs are phytoplanktonics or phytoplanktons, water, hyacinths, and seaweeds. So we also have here a producer. A producer is a green plant which traps the energy of sunlight, radiant energy or solar energy, and converts it into chemical energy in order for it to form organic compounds and photosynthesize using CO2, this is carbon dioxide, and H2O, or simple organic substances as raw materials. It forms the starting point or origin of every food chain. Now let's look at consumers. This is an organism which derives its nutrients, energy, and food from eating plants directly or indirectly. In other words, a consumer is an organism which depends on other organisms for food, energy, and nutrients. That's it, depend on other organisms for food, energy, and nutrients. All consumers are referred to as heterotrophs, and they lack chlorophyll. Let's look at what a decomposer looks like or what it's all about. Now, decomposers are fungi or bacteria which live saprophytically or feed on dead remains of plants, animals, or organisms, leading to or breaking down organic materials or organic matter to produce solo nutrients which are absorbed by plants. Decomposers are also organisms that feed on dead animals and other decaying organic materials. Now these are decomposers. Don't forget we say that they are either fungi or bacteria. They also form at times as catalysts. Okay, now let's look at the next one, which is recognizing the food relationship. That's the third objective. Recognizing the food relationship that exists among living things. That's what I'm talking about, the food web. Now, recognizing the food relationship between living things here has to do with same autotroph and heterotroph. Remember we said earlier that autotrophs are organisms that can produce or manufacture their own food, and heterotrophs are those other organisms that cannot produce or manufacture their own food, which means they have to depend directly or indirectly on autotrophs, that's plants or green plants, for them to derive their energy or nutrients or food from it. So, talking about the relationship, or to recognize the relationship, has to do with organisms, as we say, plants and animals. So in this relationship that exists among living things, living things are either plants or animals. This means the food web, where plants depend, or animals, plants produce their own food, and animals now depend on this produced food from the plant. Let me show you a diagram. So this is the best diagram that's going to explain the relationship that exists among living things. Now let's take a good example of food web in a terrestrial habitat. Now, we talked about organisms that has to do with plants and animals. So the relationship that exists among living things, e.g. plants and animals. Let's take a look at this now. We have grass. Of course, goats do feed on grasses. Is that correct? Grasshoppers do the same. Grasscutters do the same. And then toads also do what? They feed on grasshoppers. Snakes do feed on toads. A hawk does also do feed on a snake. A man can feed on this. A man can feed on lion and goats, and then grass cutter. So this is a food web describing or showing the relationship that exists among living things. The relationship that exists among autotrophs and heterotrophs. Now let's take a look at the other one. Now this is a food web, example of a food web in an aquatic habitat. We have aquatic plants over here where you can find, you can also find a crayfish in there that consumes this as well. A fish also feeds on this. Tadpole, a frog can also feed on a little fish, fingerling. Insects, a frog can also feed on an insect. So this describes the relationship that exists among living things. Don't forget, when we're talking about living things, we can say the relationship that exists among organisms. And if we still mention organisms, we're talking about plants and animals. Okay, let's take a listen. So the last objective here is to state the differences between autotrophs and autotrophy, heterotroph and heterotrophy. Now listen. Autotrophs has to do with the process. Autotroph, I said, has to do with the process by which an organism derives its food or manufactures its food through a process called photosynthesis. While autotrophy has to do with the animal or the organism that carries out that function. Let me repeat that. Autotrophy here is the process by which the organism is being able to manufacture or produce its own food, while autotrophy here refers to the organism that carries out this process or this function. Likewise, heterotrophs here, I can add an S over here. Heterotrophs here has to do with the process or the interaction or those organisms that are not able or that cannot manufacture their own food but depend directly or indirectly on or ready-made food from autotrophs or from plants, green plants, for them to feed. So they do depend on autotrophs. While heterotrophy here has to do with the animals, those animals that do carry out this function or that do carry out this process. So I would love you to do something for me. I'd love you to do this assignment for me, because we've been able to recognize the food relationship that exists among living things, as food web, and we also have food chain as demonstrated or as described in this diagram. Now I need you to state four differences between food chain and food web. State 4 differences between food chain and food web. Please do this assignment for me and submit as soon as possible, so we'll continue to communicate from your home. Thank you and stay blessed.